Bienvenidos, señoras y señores, and welcome to another Soccer Sanchez video. It's day 8 of Euro 2024. Every team has played their first group game, some are in the middle of their second, and we go into day 8 with England fans wondering what is going on in the England camp. Gareth Southgate has been massively criticised for England's performances over the last two group games, and we're here to chew the fat and find out exactly what is going on with Gareth Southgate and has he lost the plot? With me, as always, a friend of the show, our man from Dam, LeyPetreli. How you doing, Ley?
I'm fine, thank you. It's a privilege to be on the show.
Before we start with the England talk, what have you made so far of Euro 2024?
Well, so far, it's a bit underwhelming, in my humble opinion, of course. Um, whilst, of course, there have been some great goals. First one that comes to mind is Arda Fuller. I'm not sure if I got the name right. The kid from Turkey, and a few other, standout performances. Chiesa. I'm a bit underwhelmed. I think the game even last night, Netherlands and what was it, France? It's a bit
France, Netherlands.
underwhelming. Sorry.
France, Netherlands, you mean?
Yes, quite underwhelming. Same thing with
Very.
Italy and Spain. Yeah, especially the reaction back home in Holland. Even if we didn't expect, well, we didn't expect to win. We kind of thought we would come out a bit more guns blazing, or at least France would even beat us. Go out on our shield. But a nil-nil draw is a bit underwhelming. But it's still early days, I guess.
Yeah, you're right. The Netherlands France game was probably the game I was looking forward to the most in the group stage, and it was
Mm,
just like you said, completely underwhelming. Um, the one thing that I noticed a lot about that particular game yesterday, and to be honest, and I think we've mentioned it before talking privately, it's a lot of sloppy passes going on, a lot of sloppy play, a lot of overstretching. Oh, the ball just about
mm,
got there. Oh, crossfield ball. Oh, went out of play. There was a
indeed.
lot of that going on,
Yeah.
and I don't know if that's a regular thing. Like if we were to analyze that with stats and all that kind of things, pass
Mm,
accuracy, but it feels like there's a lot of sloppy football happening, and in particular that Netherlands France game yesterday. And a lot of people are saying that had Mbappe been there, there probably would have been a goal. There probably been a bit of spark or something, not just from the
perhaps.
French team, but I might have sparked the Netherlands team to do something as well. Because yeah,
Right.
the game was pretty dead. I mean, the feeling in the Netherlands in general was there any was there a sense of relief that you didn't lose to France or disappointment that you didn't win?
Definitely, I would say relief. I'm in an expat group back home where you could tell they were like most. I would say the general feeling was they expected more from France. So very happy with the point.
Yeah, true.
Very happy with the point. Yeah, but like you said, yeah, lots of sloppy passes. Only one chance came to mind, and it came from well, two chances to be fair. One from Cody Gakpo in the first half. I think he cut in,
Yeah,
had a decent shot. Fair enough, that's expected. The pie with a lot of highlight moments where it seems like he's gonna hit a free kick, but underwhelming. And then most especially Rabiot when he's through on goal, trying to get the cut back. It kind of reminded me of the old days when we played FIFA Pro Clubs. Just trying to get the easy goal. It was quite underwhelming. I'm
the
thinking,
sweaty goals.
yeah, yeah, the ones the show bankers, so to speak.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So it was quite underwhelming. But look, Netherlands, the main feeling back home is very happy with the point. Yes, you're right with Mbappe, of course, a player like that, for sure would have created more of a spark and maybe, like you said, kicked Holland into gear because you know uh players like that always change games. But yeah, I would say quite underwhelming so far.
The only point of contention throughout the whole game, despite it being a nil-nil, was
Mm.
a VAR decision to disallow the Xavi Simons
Point.
goal. Now,
Yes.
obviously, watching it live, you think it's a goal. When you analyze it, you do see, and I forgot the player. Was it
Was
Dumfries?
it Dumfries,
Yeah,
Denzel
I think
Dumfries, I believe.
he was standing
Yeah.
parallel to the goalkeeper. So the reason why it was disallowed is that, according to the referee in VAR, that the goalkeeper didn't have the space to his left to be able to have the opportunity to dive
Right.
and save it.
Mm.
When I look at the replay and you see the distance between the ball and the goalkeeper, yes, he might have a point. He's close enough to actually dive and go for it if he has those
Yeah.
reactions. Personally, I don't think he would have dived. I think it was just too quick for him that he wouldn't have
Indeed.
made a mini movement regardless of Dumfries being there. But
Yeah.
I mean, one thing that has been discussed a lot about with Euros is that VAR seems to be working very well. There's not a lot of matches where we've had to refer to referee's decision. The only other contentious decision throughout this Euro finals was the decision to disallow Belgium's goal with
Okay,
with the
the
handball.
handball.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's the only one really, other than this, and it's
Mm.
just a bit unfortunate that this particular VAR decision, the Netherlands France one, which probably has more weight behind it than the handball one, let's say, is the fact
Yeah.
there was English referees, and obviously we all know about the Premier League and the criticism the English referees and the VAR get. So it doesn't help their cause. But
Mm.
I personally think it was a bit unfair. I mean, what do you think? Do you think it should stand?
Yeah, with my Dutch hat on, of course. Also, from a semi-neutral perspective, you're thinking, look, we need something to go through. Now, of course, you always want the right decision, regardless of your stance. But once the goal went in, you are like, oh, thank God, finally something's gonna
Yes,
happen. You
yes,
know, and yet it also takes me back. Speaking of English refereeing, it takes me back to, I believe there was a game in the Premier League between, I think it was Man City and Fulham. I think a Kanji, either he was in a similar position and they gave the goal. I'm not sure. Don't quote me. I'm not sure if it was against Fulham, but I know it was Man City and either Fulham or Wolves, and it was a similar situation, and it was worse than this, and the goal stood.
yeah.
So yeah, from a neutral perspective, I would say I would have loved the goal to stand. In retrospect, look, if yes, it seemed like he did obstruct the keeper to a degree. So overall, look, we're happy with the point. We expected France to do more. The one highlight from the game I would say was Kante was just unbelievable.
Oh,
Like it's just,
again,
what a
this guy.
pleasure, man. What a pleasure to see him, man. Like, whoa, whoa. I know the Saudi league gets some flack, but they seem to be taking care of him because he he looks as good as when he left the
Yeah,
Premier League.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So absolute pleasure to see him. And without trying to sound somewhat biased, I have to give a special mention to William Saliba, regardless of if he plays for
He
Arsenal
played
or
well
not.
yesterday. I didn't think he had a good game in the
Yeah,
first match, but yesterday he played well.
there you go. Yeah. So yeah, I guess. But yeah, we move. We'll see what's in store. But yeah, overall, I think a point was a fair enough result. I'm still a bit irked by the quality of football. I mean, the AFCON was early this year, and in as much as yes, it might have been tactics out the window to some degree. I can only imagine how exciting it was. Like if that game was in the AFCON, you probably would have seen 16 goals in the last 10 minutes. Okay, I exaggerate, but you know what I mean. It was more
I, th-
action packed as
I think I
opposed to
think I
what
think I mean we got on this in another video, but just briefly, I think in the Afcon they play a lot with heart, whereas in Europe they play a lot with brain, and it's
I agree.
it's
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
bit
to a
too
degree, yeah.
tactical. It's a bit too pass, 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 pass,
Mm,
pass, pass.
yeah,
Whereas in Afcon
yeah.
you might get some unknown, doing a Rabona and then a overhead kick.
Right,
So
right, and yeah, yeah. And sorry, just one thing. I mean, we've had this discussion somewhat privately as well, but I think also in Europe, it's also down to the coaching of even the kids now. The culture, there's not enough flair or dribbling, or even in Brazil, for example. Like it's not the same.
well,
I'm not
a
saying
lot of
it's
the kids
old
from past
tactics.
generations would play on the streets, in the cages, in the parks, whatever. Now kids are
Mm,
going into academies at 4, 5, 6, and they're being told, "Oh, you
right.
can't play with your friends because you might get injured." And
Oh
that
wow.
don't
Okay.
help. That's why we're seeing all this passing and all this tactical thinking. And like I say, I
Mm,
think Afcon
yeah.
plays with the heart, Europe plays with the brain, and
Indeed.
it's quite noticeable, to be
Mm,
honest with you. But no, great result, I guess, for Netherlands and France. Neither losing a point, but
right.
neither gaining three. Both in contention to qualify through to the knockout stages. So good luck to them. So brings us up to the main point of this video, and a lot of topic of discussion in England in particular, obviously. But
Mm,
it's been very disappointing the way the English team have performed in the two group games so far. They
right.
have gathered 4 points and look in contention to qualify for that group stage. But there's
Yeah.
a lot of talk about Gareth Southgate's tactical plan, his awareness, whether the
Mm,
substitutions that he's making are actually benefiting the team at all. There's been a lot of talk recently about Harry Kane. Maybe he's not. Maybe he shouldn't be starting for England anymore. And Watkins should be in there just because he has pace.
yeah.
A lot of things have been said, but generally speaking, I mean, just overall over the two games, what did you make of both performances and the team selection? Bearing in mind both games started with the same 11.
Yeah. So Trent in midfield, with all due respect, is a great player. Well, decent enough player, but it's more like trying to fit him into the team, so to speak. It's quite an underwhelming performance. And you would think after that game, maybe Southgate would have realized, oh, maybe this is not the way. Kobe Mainu, for example, should have perhaps started the next game. But it goes back to the announcement of the squad in general. We were quite underwhelmed in general. The squad didn't really seem like it was set up to go the distance. And of course, if they surprise us, fair enough. But then, yeah, I'm not too sure about this England team. There's no consistency in terms of squad selection. I understand why Rashford didn't make it, but even in terms of Harry Kane, for example, it seems to be I don't know whether to call it a lack of loyalty or reward, but this is a player who, okay, albeit, maybe the critics might say, okay, he's not won this or what, still a world-class striker. You can say anything about him. He's the guy you want in the box. So why is the team not set up to, bring out his strengths? It's incredible. Like that the so-called pundits that were singing his praises perhaps 11 days ago or prior to the tournament starting are now trying to hang him, like, for not performing. It's incredible. And this is a trend in terms of the English national team. It happens every time. Sterling might have an amazing tournament, and the first chance you get, you drop him. Or a kid might have a great season like Kobe Mainu, who didn't have a preseason for Man United, by the way. Oh, why is he not starting? I'm thinking, why should he start? But of course, at the same time, I'll perhaps maybe rather see him in the team than Trent. Cole Palmer's another one. Yes, he had a good season, but all of a sudden he's in the England team, and then he's not playing. But it's quite underwhelming, and I'll be honest, I'm really disappointed. Really disappointed.
I think you've named three players there that I wanted to touch on as well, and I'll go through them as well. And you tell me what you think, but. First of all, the Kane thing. I mean, we'll wrap this up quickly. Kane is the best striker in England. He is probably one of the few world-class players that England actually have. And the closest one, other than Bellingham, who might have a chance of winning the Ballon d'Or one day. Whether it happened now, who knows? I mean, obviously he had his opportunity with Bayern winning the league and maybe winning the Champions League. So who knows if he's going to have... I mean, it's a relatively successful season with Kane, but obviously not for Bayern. But saying that, you're right. The talk around Kane after that last England game was I was found really surprising. I mean, he was the one that scored the only goal of the game. So if he wasn't on the pitch, England would have lost 1-0. Logically speaking, a lot of talk was made about the substitutions, how England looked better. I looked at that, and statistically we weren't any better. Watkins did have one opportunity where he was actually put through, and that was actually registered as a big opportunity missed, a big chance missed statistically. So again, that's not great. But you're right. I think what has happened in the past, particularly in Euro 2020, was that the team was built around Kane, and I don't mean so that Kane can tap it in and what have you. Kane's ability to pass the ball and to deep drop and to drop as a 10 was paid massive dividends for players like Raheem Sterling, for example.
Indeed.
And putting Foden on the left hand side, while not impossible, I mean, he plays football. He's been playing football since he was 5 years old, but I think this goes down to what I mentioned earlier about heart and brain. I think these kids have been taught so much tactically where to be that they kind of find it a bit awkward to kind of go out of position. One thing I do give Foden, which I did criticise him on in the first game, he did hug the touchline this time. He was there, but he barely carried it. He would receive it on the touchline and knock it back to Trippier or back inside into the midfield. And that's not what England needed. It was very lopsided. Saka was the only real creative attacking threat for England, other than Kane.
How Walker stood out as well. I have to give him a bit.
Walker was okay, but I've just noticed in the last couple of games and even the friendlies, he's looking his age. He looks knackered by the 70th minute. And to be fair to him, he gives his all, which is great. But I wouldn't be disappointed if he was dropped and Trent Alexander-Arnold actually played as a right back. I think England lose a lot of opportunities to send early balls from the wings. One, because Trippier is not left-footed, so naturally he'll have to cut back to send something in. Foden's not doing anything either. On the other side, Saka is more suited to cutting in and becoming a threat. Either shooting or threading in a ball by cutting in. It's very rare that you'll see him swing across in. And I think just naturally, just having Trent Alexander-Arnold as a right back, not a wing back, not so much as Kyle Walker, but having the opportunity for him to send a ball in, because like I said before, I think his crossing and passing is fantastic, and
Of
and
course.
England need to use that. But going off on Arnold as well, what you said there about him playing midfield, I have no idea why it feels like we're experimenting in this tournament. England have had so many opportunities in friendlies and for qualification to be testing this, that, here and there. Yes, Grealish didn't have a great season, but he's a quality player. Form is temporary, quality is,
Permanent.
there you go. And likewise with Rashford. Yeah, he didn't have a great season,
Yes.
but I'd rather Rashford now at this point than experimenting with someone like Anthony Gordon or Eze. Yes, they deserve their position,
Indeed.
they deserve their place in the team, but let's give them
Yeah.
their place in the team for the World Cup qualifiers. We don't need to be
Indeed.
experimenting now
Mm.
while we're in the middle of the tournament, and that's what it feels like we're doing. It feels like Southgate is being very stubborn and kept the same starting 11. Didn't work the second time either. It's time to remove Trent Alexander-Arnold and you play either, like you said, Mainu. Personally speaking,
Yeah.
I think we should play Adam Wharton, but Southgate came out with a ridiculous quote after the game saying, we need someone like Calvin Phillips. It's hard to replace someone like him. At the last World Cup, Bellingham played as an 8 and Rice as a 6. Why isn't he doing that now? It's beyond me. And just for clarification for anyone watching and listening, Calvin Phillips played a total of 40 minutes during England's World Cup campaign in Qatar. So
Wow.
that comment
Really?
about him being missed is just so ridiculous and so dumb that I put the headline here. Has Southgate lost the plot? Because it feels like it. And if we see the same starting 11 for the next game, he's lost the plot. All right, he's lost the bloody plot.
Agreed.
So anyway,
Agreed.
So
Agreed.
with that final game coming up for England, what do you think the chances are of qualifying? I mean, obviously they're odds on to qualify because of the fact they're top of the group. But with that final game coming up against Slovenia, should be a comfortable win. If England do play the same 11, will it be a comfortable win, LeyPetreli?
I could see England coming out with a draw.
Because the quality of the players aren't in question. It's the way they play together with that 11.
Of course. Yeah, I could see England coming out with a draw, like worst case scenario. The last few minutes of that Denmark game, I'll be honest, Denmark would perhaps be kicking themselves for not winning it.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is where I worry a little bit. I don't understand. I actually do feel for England fans as well. While some of their passion or our passion or optimism may be somewhat misguided based on our international record, still there are players in there that at least should be getting to the latter stages of tournaments. And to be fair, they have, which is the only reason why sometimes I give Southgate a little bit of grace, because semi-finals of the World Cup, finals of the European Cup, yes, his tactics may be in question, but I'm still not over that final against Italy. Like, I will never forget that day. Like, it was Sunday afternoon, Wembley, scored within 3 minutes, and players started going missing, So, to answer your question, I do see us beating Slovenia. My only worry is the first decent team England play, I expect England to get knocked out.
Yep.
That's just and you saw that against Denmark.
Yeah.
If Denmark had just a little bit, even Serbia, if you watch that game back, there was a moment where, was it Jovic got played in and he stumbled, or these little moments change games, so yeah, that's my only worry. Even if England played France last night or Holland, the Netherlands last night, at 60% or whatever level they were playing at, if it was in a must-win game, I see England getting knocked out, and that's what hurts the most, regardless of the lineup, So
what I noticed, and we'll see if we notice it in the next game, and you have a look as well. But when you think about the goalkeeper, the defense, and the
Pickford, you mean?
Sorry,
Pickford, you mean? Our keeper, you mean?
Yeah. So if you notice. And there was someone who released a thread on this actually on X, and I think I retweeted it. You might find it on my Twitter page or my X page. But the amount of times that Walker, Stones, what's his name, Bellingham, Foden, dropped on a goal kick, dropped right to Pickford, and asked for the ball short, and the amount of times that Pickford long balled it. I think there's a cohesion there that Southgate needs to address.
Mm.
Pickford is obviously used to playing that long ball at Everton. It's the way they
Everton, yeah.
play all the time. You could see
Mm.
the frustration in in Stones,
Yeah.
in Bellingham's face a couple of times when they asked for the ball short. It was on, and he booted it. And more times than not, England would lose it after hitting the ball long. I
Indeed.
don't know what that is about, and I don't know if Southgate, um, uh, adheres to the whole Guardiola, you know, short goal kick
Playing out the
theory.
back, yeah.
But
Yeah.
but it's not happening, and there's a loss of team cohesion during goal kicks and when Pickford has the ball. And personally speaking, I think that needs to be addressed as soon as possible, as it could affect us in the latter stages of the tournament if England qualify. But yeah, I
Okay.
noticed that a lot. And do you think it's Southgate's job to kind of align club tactics with international tactics, or should he just simply come up with his own
Yeah.
tactical way
That's
and
yeah, that's a good
tactical vision for each individual game?
yeah, no, that's a good question. It's funny, it's very interesting you mentioned that. That's a good spot because we've had this discussion. You realize football goes in cycles where once a new trend comes in, everyone does the same thing. So I remember when people started playing out the back, and you're like, "Oh, what's going on?" Everyone starts playing at the back, out the back. Fullbacks turning into midfielders, things like that. Everyone seems to follow that
Which
trend
which
until
isn't
it
always
becomes.
a good thing. Look at Burnley. I mean, they got relegated for sticking to that tactic. But go on.
Indeed, indeed, yeah, indeed. So I think there's a lack of communication and a borderline lack of belief. Because Pickford can still play the ball out the back. He's a good passer of the ball. I think there's something going on in terms of maybe Southgate has told him, look, whenever you're not sure, boot it. And then unfortunately, Pickford is thinking, you know what, I'm not sure. More often than not, he seems not to be sure because, as you said, he's booting the ball upfield. When normally, if you can just play a little build up at the back, Bellingham would definitely receive the ball, hold it up, play like we see a lot of club or European sides play, even in the Premier League, even, yes, albeit Burnley got relegated in phases they played some good football. Of course, relegation is relegation, but I would like to see. I mean, do you think maybe he has to bring Ramsdale in, perhaps? Because I don't think he's any worse than Pickford, and Ramsdale will play the ball out the back. He will take some risks if that's what it
I mean,
takes
I don't know if
for
it
the
takes
build-up to be
that
more
because a
fluid.
lot of those incidents I was speaking of are literally just goal kicks and he was just booting them
Mm.
basically.
Okay.
But it is telling that we've got a goalkeeper who
Mm.
is no offense to Everton, in an unelite team with 10 players in front of him who the majority do play for elite teams. And that's
Mm.
noticeable not just in the quality of clubs, but the tactical prowess of these players. And
Mm.
I just think Pickford's inclusion is merited. He's definitely, in my
Of
opinion, the best
course,
English goalkeeper. But
of course.
something needs to be done about tactically when he does have the ball. What it is, how England building out from Pickford.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
something that needs to be addressed. And I mean, as you say, the game on June 25th, England Slovenia at the Rhein Energy Stadion in Cologne. Kickoff is 8 p.m. at UK time. I think England will win, but we need to be a lot more convincing. Saying that,
Mm.
England didn't have a good group stage at Euro 2020, so it's all relative, really, isn't it? So
Indeed,
we'll have to wait and see.
indeed.
The Ramsdale thing, I don't think Southgate will change it just on that basis. I think
Okay.
Ramsdale didn't make a good account of himself either in the friendlies leading up um,
Mm.
to
That's
to
true.
the Euro. So
Yeah.
I don't know how much confidence Southgate has in him, but we'll have to wait and see.
Mm.
Well, that's it for the Soccer Sanchez video for day 8 of Euro 2024. As always, thank you so much, Ley, for joining me
Thank you.
on this video, and we hope to see you soon. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment on the videos. Please let us know what you think. Is Southgate got it wrong? Should Kane be dropped? And will England be going through to the knockout stages of the next round of Euro 2024? Until then, thank you so much for joining us. It's been emotional. Good night.
Good night.